country is that they're strapped there without the pleasures of anesthesia or pain, monitoring, or medication. And the foreskin, the most sensitive part of their male anatomy, is removed.
Okay, now
surgically.
Coincidentally, knowing that we were going to do a program like this, I did check with the State of Oregon Children's Services Division to find out whether circumcision is in the category of child abuse. It is not. I don't think it's in the category in any state, is it?
I wouldn't think so.
The state of Illinois just passed a specific bill and signed by the governor of the state of Illinois, which went through every aspect of torture and child abuse and clearly indicated that it did not include medical circumcision of male infants.
Okay. We've got a little more footage here, and I don't know if we can cram all of this in the time that we're allotted, but we're going to try to do that. And I wonder if the control room would roll on, please.
The only people left in the world today that are doing circumcision are the Jews, the Muslims, and the North Americans. Not that that's a religion.
All right. Any comments? Is that
was crying?
Yeah.
And
well, we noticed that he was strapped down, crying his lungs out, and the doctor there didn't make any reference to the particular children's hospital. Do you happen to know what?
No.
Okay. That the groups that were doing it, Jews, Muslims, and the North Americans. Not that that's an ethnic group, but.
Yeah.
Any challenges there?
Well,
a surgical habit, sort of.
And one of the largest populations, particularly in this country, that is going against circumcision would be the Jewish population. They are, moving away from that. The mothers, particularly, are becoming more involved in that culture and saying, we don't want this to happen to our baby. So with that, we're noticing a difference there. And none of the shall I say, Scandinavian Jews, Jewish people in England and that type of thing. It doesn't happen there as readily and as often as it does
now,
here.
in doing some reading, in fact, Ron, by some material that you sent to me, it said that this goes back to some 5,000 years when the Jewish people were actually the slaves of the Egyptians in history.
Correct.
And I guess the Egyptians were doing this and they could identify their slaves at that time. Is that part of the mystique or the history in this? Or
well, for the Jewish population, I'm not Jewish and I don't want to speak for the Jewish population, but it's to cleanse the son of the mother's sin, and it's a blood rite, and passing and giving of that blood cleanses the son of the mother's sins.
All right, let's see what else we have. I'm going to try to cram all of this in.
That's the thing that upset me the most, was that no one talked to me about it. No one explained to me some of the facts that I learned after the circumcision.
Trudy London is angry because her son was routinely circumcised before she had any real information about the procedure.
He was so peaceful and relaxed that week that I had him home from the hospital, and then to see the drastic change, and he was just I could tell he was in a tremendous amount of pain. I think the important thing is for Adam's body to stay intact, and I wish that I had had the information before, that I would have defended that belief. I signed an informed consent, and I don't feel that I was informed.
The consent, arguably, is never an informed consent, and so no one has truly consented to it.
Marilyn Milos is a nurse, and she's been fighting a lonely battle to inform parents by showing them a movie on circumcision. Hospital officials refused, saying it's just too much for the parents.
I said if it's too much for parents to see, surely it's too much for a baby to experience.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's true. Everything they say is true. I imagine there's maybe 1% might be medically indicated, but somebody also pointed out that if they haven't really figured out where the end of that urethra is in the penis, it may come out at the end, but as farther down and they circumcise this baby, they've lost some valuable tissue that they can use as for a plastic repair of that. So there are lots of things that should be left there. But the thing that gets me is this, 100 years ago, when they were so worried that kids who would masturbate, boys who masturbate, were surely going to get at least pimples.
I've heard that that circumcision is a good thing for little boys.
I have one 4-year-old boy who's not circumcised, and he's fine.
I have 2 brothers. They were circumcised. My father was, my husband is.
I wouldn't want to do that to the little baby. It really hurt him.
My mother had 7 kids, 4 are male, and they were circumcised, and it's just the way that I think it will be. I don't know why or why not.
Over 80% of all male newborns are circumcised routinely in the United States.
This is the first time that these parents have seen a circumcision. After the film, some minds were changed, some not. But everybody was more informed.
I didn't know how they did it. I mean, that was real violent to me, you know, strapping the baby down and, you know, seeing how it was done. I never honestly thought about how they would do it.
I feel that the advantages of circumcision outweigh the disadvantages. I'm definitely in favor of showing the film. I think it educated me.
I have to get over the emotional part of it to make a clear decision. Obviously, I feel real strong right now that I would not have him circumcised.
Prince Van Becker is an attorney and has become involved in circumcision as a legal issue.
Certainly the way the child abuse statutes read on their face, simply tying the child down would be enough.
Although hard to prove, there's a fine line between child abuse and cultural tradition.
One presumes that a Chinese family that was attempting to resuscitate the tradition of binding the baby's girl's feet would soon find the child abuse forces of the police department, the welfare department, coming down on them very hard. But that's because it does not have a traditional role or a traditional function within the society that circumcision unfortunately has.
You are watching the DADS television network. Excerpts of program done on men's health. You can contact DADS in Albuquerque at 505-299-2673. In Seattle at 206-623-DADS, that's 3237. And in Portland, Oregon, area code 503-222-1111. Let's continue on with the rest of excerpts on men's health.
Dr. Smith, I was interested in knowing on the homeopathy. Do you feel that that's beneficial for children who are hyperactive or have food allergies?
Yes, there's no doubt about it. It's quite true. If somebody's really upset with foods that make them very sick and wild and crazy, then homeopathy may not be able to be so good at slowing them down. So other things have to be done at the same time. But I saw a child who was very restless and hyperactive. He'd seen a car accident, and he was sure his dad was going to die. And so he was 5 years of age, and he was so restless. Oh, Dad, don't go driving. He was just pacing the floor, terribly anxious. And they gave him a stuff called lachesis, which is a very minimal dose of snake venom. And within 5 hours, this kid was relaxing. Okay, Dad, go on to work. I don't care. It was almost like giving him a shot of something. And it lasted. It wasn't that they had to give it every few hours. So there are ways to do this, and I'm so impressed with this. Now, it doesn't work on everybody, and I think if somebody's biochemistry is so bad, or their immune system is so awful, or they're too alkaline or too acidic, that has to be addressed first, and then the homeopathy can kick in.
I'm watching the show, and it's really quite interesting, the story that they're telling here. I have a son who's 19 years old, and for a number of years has had a lot of difficulties. His mood swings have been erratic all over, like black and white and things of this nature, just up and down. And I understand, Dr. Smith, you've been working with a company or a program where they do a lot of stuff with really getting into understanding more about body chemistry. Can you...
I'd like to address that, and I think I know of that, or have seen other related people like that, and other people like this caller. We know that people, if they have reason for anxiety and stress and depression, if they're being kicked around and being beaten and there's no way out of their situation, why they're entitled to be depressed. But if there's no good reason, they're fairly bright, they have supportive parents, what's going on. And we found that this program I mentioned about Life Balances, where we study the blood test and get this questionnaire filled out, and then we have this chemist in Spokane who works with us, and we can solve some of these things. We find many of those people that are like that are very nutrient deficient. They don't have the right stuff to help their enzymes work, and or they're somewhat alkaline. If you're alkaline, why, then the minerals aren't soluble. You need minerals to make these enzymes work. So I've seen many cases like this, adolescents or adults who are depressed, and no good reason for it. And we find that instead of just taking vitamins or minerals willy-nilly, why, we do a specific way. And this incredible program that I've been involved with, we have the people smell the vitamins. And if they smell good, they need them. If they smell bad, they don't need them. And that's why the nose is right in front of the mouth. The nose isn't your armpit or your groin, it's right there. So if something stinks, you're not going to eat it. That's what animals do. They smell around and say, oh, this is good, I'll eat this, and they need it. So if like people say, well, you smell beer, does that mean you like beer and you need it? Well, there might be some B vitamins in there that you do need. So it's almost like we can't make a mistake because we never overdose or underdose. It's an incredible program.
Hi, the reason I'm calling is because basically I have a child that's been diagnosed as being anemic, and
How old is this child?
He's 13 years old.
Okay.
And every time I've ever taken him to the doctor, he gets really ill every winter. And when I take him, they say, oh, he's anemic, here, take some iron. But the problem is it seems to be chronic. And finally, I had to take him to an emergency facility, and they said, look, you need to find an answer for this. We believe it's more than just this. But so far, his regular doctor and a hematologist haven't come up with anything.
Okay, that's an important observation, that if a hematologist who knows all about blood can't figure this out, why, then it doesn't mean that there's no answer for it. It tends to mean that there's some other reason that they haven't considered. The most common reason for anemia, without having a bloody nose or a woman hemorrhaging from her menstrual periods, would be that that person is eating something that irritates the intestinal lining and they bleed. We've seen that with milk. They're one of the most common things against cow's milk drinking is that they can make people anemic. Not just from the fact that you don't get any iron out of the milk, but they can irritate the intestinal lining. It's just oozing blood all the time. Does this child drink milk?
Yes, he does.
Does he love it?
Yes, he does.
Did he ever have ear infections as a little baby?
No, but he did have an ear infection this year.
Okay, sometimes that's a clue. Ear infections are supposed to be a giveaway that they're allergic to milk. But stop the dairy products and check his blood now, and then stop all the dairy products. It's milk, cheese, ice cream, anything from the cow, and tell him the cow dried up. And he'll say, sure, Mom. And then check his blood in a month and see if his blood did not go down and may have even gone up. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You've been watching the DADS Television Network. For more information about our programs and services, please contact DADS at area code 503-222-1111. You can also write to us at P.O. Box 8525, Portland, Oregon 97207.